we're building something that's we think is going to be a key part of how blockchains work in the finance space in the future. This is very serious IP and very important that it works rather than, chasing money and chasing users.
So let's start with just kind of the basics here. And I know you've been asked it a bunch, but if you're going to explain what Auto Blockchain is in the simplest form possible, what is it?
Auto blockchain is a place where you can bring your digital assets, put them in a professional, secure, custodial service where you can actually see them on chain. So there's no black hole that they go into. And then participate in a DeFi service environment where all of the DeFi services are doxed, audited, legit. In that sort of scenario, you're also only interacting with people who are responsible investors too. So the people that have passed the sanctions testing, have proven that they're a real individual. You don't know who they are because it's completely anonymous, but you do know that they've passed those same tests as you have.
When you're talking about the safety measures and whatnot, and not being a black hole in a way, how is Auto safe for an individual? Is it something where if I make an account on Auto and I transfer funds over there, I'm at no risk of any kind of phishing scam, or some of the traditional dangers of crypto still accessible to me in that platform? Can you kind of just break that down a little bit?
It disincentivizes malicious players because you have to pass the KYC, AML, CFT scoring and bind your wallet before you can bring assets in and before you can participate on the chain. But you also have to withdraw your assets from the chain through that verified account. Let's say that came onto Auto Blockchain, you proved that you were a decent person, like according to the checks and stuff like that, and then you proceeded to trick people into taking their assets, and then they reported you. We could open an investigation, and while the open investigation is alive in the governance process, before you're able to actually, as a real human being with a real passport, withdraw those assets from the chain, we could actually start talking to you about it and start a process of saying, hey, can we please recover these, ill-gotten gains and give them back to the people, rather than allow you to withdraw them and take them back to an open blockchain. In that scenario, I think it's quite a good disincentive because people who are stealing things prefer to stay anonymous, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I guess one thing I should have kind of mentioned off the start here is I've found a few people don't really know what KYC is, even though for centralized exchanges, I think all across the world, you have to go through this KYC or know your customer process. So kind of just focusing on that, what made you realize, hey, that was something that needed to be built? Because I've listened to a lot of the other auto AMAs, and you've talked about how, you kind of started this back in 2017, and there's some really great videos and information sessions. If anybody's watching this right now and you want to go back, just type in Auto Blockchain, you'll find their YouTube account. But what was the big thing that made you realize like this is going to be the direction? It's only a matter of time until it gets there.
One of the really super important things about being able to participate in actual genuine investment opportunities, which will bring to the Auto users, the chain will enable for Auto users and Web3 users. It's been something that most, I would say 90% plus of Web3 users have never had that ability to be exposed to actual genuine investment opportunities on chain, because to offer those investment opportunities, the person who's doing the offer has to do a KYC process for every single investor that they bring on. And that's why usually we see the same old VCs going through getting the early access to all the projects, because it's easy to deal with those larger organizations. They have provided the documentation in advance. And if you're doing a raise, you don't want to have to go through the process of raising from getting all that information from the public. So one of the benefits that we saw, and early stages for Plug and Otto, a company called Blockhouse did all of that for everyone who wanted to register for our TGEs, our token generating event. They actually built a system around and a process around onboarding people, getting their documentation and stuff like that. And it was a lot of work, but we actually were able to get a wide variety of investors that usually wouldn't have been involved or been able to get involved in a TGE, in a legit TGE.
For the NFT space, because that's kind of where I came from. And obviously, there's some people that argued, oh, if you're buying an NFT, you're buying into a company or it's some kind of like investment contract. And that's not really the case. But it sounds like Otto, not that you guys are doing NFTs, you're doing crypto. And on that topic, are you guys touching NFTs at all or not really?
So definitely,
Awesome.
we think there's a lot of DeFi protocols that are going to really involve some of those digital assets that people have and that groups have, and that and investment opportunities around digital assets, digital content. Um, if if you look at Netflix, they're a business about distributing content. Procuring content is a massive, massive part of that. We think that all of those cool digital business products can be bought through in DeFi and bought through in a decentralized investment structure as well.
For the investing side of things, like, is it something that, I'm not a VC or anything myself, but, when you're saying that there's going to be investment opportunities are getting brought to Otto, is it something that we should look at as kind of like a launch pad in a way, or how would you
Yep.
describe opportunities coming?
So we've built the protocol into the Otto blockchain, which is a launch pad. So and a governance process around it. So basically, if you're a project that wants to do a really small raise or a really large raise, you can go through the application process of number one, doxing yourself, number two, submitting your contract code for independent audit approval. And we're not going to dox you to the world, but our KYC provider, which is an accountancy firm in New Zealand, is going to verify. Our legal firm is going to check your legal opinion of your product. Once that's done, and all the information is produced, so like a white paper produced, we'll make that available for Otto to users to vote whether it gets launched on chain. Once it's past that vote threshold, so a certain amount of Otto has been voted to approve it, then you will be able to do a raise within the launch protocol. Actually, the launch protocol is currently in is currently active in the plug redemption. So that's the first time people are actually getting the experience of using the launch protocol. They will see how that works and how easy it is, and stuff like that. So we think that there'll be a much wider base of VCs. You won't even feel you'll be like, oh yeah, I've gone through the process. I'm qualified to actually invest in anything I want to now that comes up on Otto. And that's sort of, I think, the difference between, being approached by a project because you're a non-VC and being made available to you at the ground level for it just because you're already there, already registered and already ready.
That's awesome. I've always kind of viewed blockchain as that way to kind of remove the middlemen or create, I guess remove the barriers that are out there, and that's awesome to hear that this is kind of what that's going to. Now, one thing that I have seen.
We have one thing. So
No,
just
you're
to
good.
mention, centralized exchanges do IEOs in a way. Are the centralized exchanges kind of way of trying to widen things up to a wider audience for early investment, but they have to avoid certain things because there's not much disclosure given. There's not much auditing given. Like there's no guarantee provided. But with Otto, you get the opportunity to do that research. You're presented with the information, you're presented with the details, you're presented with the audit report of the code, you're presented with the white paper of the company. It's been voted by Otto users to come on board. So you've got that sort of ability to, and also all the assets have never gone into a black hole. You haven't deposited it into an exchange and then not be able to relate to the balance of what you've deposited to the actual balance of what's on the exchange. So you've got a lot more. It's a lot more Web3 based, but also a very similar service, just in a better way.
The aspect of the barriers getting broken down is one thing, but at the same time, we're seeing within certain North American restrictions for staking, and I know that you guys are compliant. And so what I'm asking is, are you compliant for everywhere? Is it a certain jurisdiction that you can say, hey, we're compliant for there now? Is it just like being compliant is having a KYC? How should we look at that verbiage?
There's different levels of compliance, I would say. For example, in many countries, there's a certain amount of money you can spend with a supplier without verifying that you're a real human being. They don't have to provide the information to anyone that like there's no centralized agency collecting that verification. They just need to do it for their own checks and balances, that you're verified as a KYC AML. So it means that people can do business with you easily and they can offer actual business to you rather than trying to avoid saying something's a security. They could actually register a security and offer it to you on the chain without putting themselves at risk from a counterparty perspective. That's one level of compliance. Another level of compliance is that we have, a firm that verifies your KYC and AML details. They can offer other levels of verification for you. So you could actually become an accredited investor and actually become have different levels of attestation added to your profile, so that anyone who's dealing with you offering a restricted product will have that verification of that you're someone that they're allowed, according to their legal opinion, according to their product and licenses, that they're allowed to offer that product to you. So it gives you that on-chain ability to do this without disclosing your information.
Now, one thing that I love about the blockchain space is you can come across some really amazing projects and before essentially anybody else. And I kind of feel that Otto's in that way. And I'm curious how you guys have gone from, this building back in 2017 with Plug. Now we're going into Otto Blockchain and your partners. Like these partners are pretty amazing. I'm going to throw up a graphic on the screen here so you guys can see the different partners that Otto is with, but how has it been trying to connect with people with not necessarily having a massive following in that way, but still getting some very significant names? Is this something where you're wanting to build that foundation first, and then once the product's launched, go from there? What's kind of your thoughts on it?
We're building something that we think is going to be a key part of how blockchains work in the finance space in the future. This is very serious IP and very important that it works rather than chasing money and chasing users. One thing that we've always said is, and always shared with our Otto users, is think, learn, ask questions, connect, and act, but act gently. Our goal is to prove these things work and to find more things that work that are all going to add up to let's say, the future USB, the future standards of how DeFi works and as it does evolve. Because there's a huge amount, there's a tiny amount of funding sitting in real DeFi. There's a lot of funding sitting in VCs who are buying into actual equity of businesses or actual early stage projects, but there is very small amount of actual funding in DeFi and in DeFi services, which basically means that it's underutilized because nothing's working. Nothing's working the way that makes this successful. So we think that our approach, and as we learn, as we gently grow, as people try it and they find that it works, or as new services are offered that appeal to more people and provide more people with the things they really need and they're really looking for, that it will prove itself as the way going forward. And that's far, far more valuable. Like it's far more valuable than something that's an instant hit with a massive promotion and a big success out the gate and then winds down because it doesn't have that robustness, it doesn't have that genuine value. It hasn't proven itself over time.
Within the auto ecosystem, there's kind of three tokens right now, and I want to kind of go over all of them. We have Plug, we have Auto, and we have Catalyst. So can you just tell me
Yeah.
quickly what each one of them does? And then for anyone that's thinking about wanting to participate in Otto Blockchain, what's the kind of need to know with this kind of fair auction that's going on right now? And again, I'm going to throw up some graphics here. If you guys are interested in participating, this is coming to an end very shortly. I'm going to try to get this video uploaded before that so you guys can see it all. But Jeff, what's kind of the breakdown for these three tokens?
So Plug was our initial project. So we started in 2017. We built a toolkit, a substrate toolkit for so that specific use case based blockchains could be developed and deployed by anyone. So that's that's already been open sourced as a toolkit. We've built some very cool node stabilization and high speed functionality into that. So you're looking at a really hard working blockchain that is ultimately quite configurable and also very compatible with other substrate based blockchains. So that toolkit was created. Then from the we had an initial a token generating event called the Plug token. And the Plug token has been decentralized, sold and decentralized through that token generating event to those qualified investors and public investors, but KYC and verified investors in 2018 and in early 2018. Since then, the token has been basically completely decentralized and available on the market, but we've continued developing. So we can look at Otto as one of the trees planted from the original Plug seed. So that's why and because we want it to be a blockchain that's internally growing, so it's growing rather than funded. We needed a way of decentralizing it without a sale. So what we did was we allowed people who held Plug tokens to stake them for 6 months to earn the initial bootstrap of Otto tokens, because you need a certain amount of Otto tokens in the Genesis block to enable consensus to begin happening. So we made 10 million Otto tokens available for people who staked Plug tokens for that 6 months at the early stages of the Otto project, while we were developing the chain. And then that gave us a decentralized community to begin the launch, to begin the early stages of the chain coming online. If you look at some other chains, for example, Ethereum, they had a closed group of pre-miners, but it didn't allow, and it was a large amount of a permanent token. So it didn't allow a lot of decentralization right up front, but we wanted to be more decentralized right up front and have a smaller amount of tokens in that initial Genesis block to start with. And I think we really achieved that really well. We had great engagement in that pre-mine, and then the people who did the pre-mine had great engagement once the Genesis block and their ability to come in on consensus. So Otto token on the Otto blockchain is the gas token. It's also the network fee token. So when you pay for a service or pay a transaction fee, on the Otto blockchain, that Otto token that you pay gets burned by the chain. You can also use an Otto token to buy the consensus token. So the consensus token is the catalyst token, and that's used to stake and provide security to the chain. So Catalyst is a special token because it's been designed to not be divisible. So there's no decimal places. So you can only hold a whole Catalyst. Catalyst also grows using an algorithm. So it grows in price each time once minted. So the first Catalyst to be minted costed 1 Otto token. And currently now we're at 23,000 and it's about 650 Otto tokens to mint one. As that grows, we believe that the 50,000, and the only way to get it at the moment is to earn Otto. And the only way to earn Otto is to stake Catalyst. So that's the only way that Otto gets into the system, from people staking Catalyst. And the only way for someone at the moment to get Catalyst is to burn Otto to mint a new one, or to buy the Catalyst on the DEX from another user who has also already minted one. If you look at it from a functional perspective, Otto being the voting token and also being the gas and fees token on the chain, is the hardworking token, and its value is derived by actually how useful it is and how much utility it provides people. The Catalyst token is a really great store of value because you know that the next one to mint is going to cost slightly more. So as more of them are minted, as the chain grows in value and more users use it, that Catalyst token is the only way to bring Otto into existence. One thing that we're doing with Plug token to continue that sort of decentralization is we're offering people a 25-to-1 ratio for minting Catalyst. So, for example, if it costed 1,000 Otto to mint a Catalyst, you'll be able to mint a Catalyst with 25,000 Plug. And doing that is going to help us achieve that sort of value growth balance criteria and bring in more and more of the decentralized community around the Plug token. From the Plug is a ERC20 token, which can be burnt into the Otto chain. So it sort of allows us to grow our user base while products and services are being added to the chain and tested and used by the community. So it's a second way to get in.
Now, when I first delved into the Otto blockchain, I was like, "Oh, I need a Polkadot wallet," and I've never had any kind of experience with that. But I know a lot of people are very familiar with just using MetaMask. They've connected to Polygon, Arbitrum, whatever, by clicking the drop-down menu. Is that something that's ever going to be coming for Otto blockchain? Is it something that people need to know that if you're wanting to participate in this ecosystem, you do need a Polkadot wallet? What can you kind of tell us in terms of the ease of use for new people wanting to get into the ecosystem?
In the future, we will introduce the interaction with your MetaMask. The way we've designed Otto at the moment is got 2 layers, if you imagine it. One is called your Otto account, and that's the web page where you get lots of instructions, lots of rich content, lots of help and buttons and clear explanations for things. So in your Otto account, you should be able to access a lot of modules and find out a lot of information and participate in a lot of the services that you have, rather than having to wander around lots of different websites and lots of different wallets and consoles and things like that. So that level of your Otto account, we think that's the makes things a lot easier for a user than than having to interact with MetaMask and stuff like that. But one of the processes at the moment is setting up your Polkadot wallet, which is basically just sits in your as an extension in your browser and asks you to sign when you need to sign. But all of your normal interactions are just happening on the screen in the web page where you're interacting. So we think that provides a good experience. We know that the integration to MetaMask and EVM adds quite a lot of weight to what you're doing, and it's not actually better. It's just people are more used to it that are already using Web3. We allow you to bind your MetaMask to your account. So it's actually, once we do the NFT, attestation NFT, we're able to take signatures from your off-chain, so your Ethereum wallet anyway. So you've got that compatibility coming for signing and things. But your Polkadot wallet also decentralizes the assets that you hold on the Otto blockchain, so that no one can, and so that they're not centralized. Like, for example, on an exchange, your assets are, your balance on the exchange is controlled by the exchange. There is no blockchain controlling your assets on an exchange, whereas in a blockchain, in a decentralized infrastructure, not your keys, not your coins, right? So in this scenario, your balance on Otto is actually a key that's held on your computer. That can be very, very important for when you're dealing with a large amount of finance. Yeah, so if you can understand that self-custody scenario. So
Absolutely,
increasing usability, increasing ease of use, increasing the ability to understand what you're doing when you're doing things. I think that the Polkadot wallet extension being in your browser is not actually that intrusive, other than the first setup process, which we have instructions for and how-tos for. So hopefully, and so far, users have been able to get past that without much trouble.
Yeah, when I tried it out, I didn't have any issues. Do you think that the amount of downloads and people getting familiar with the Polkadot wallet is going to increase a lot? Like, whether it be just from Otto Blockchain or in general, how do you think the Polkadot ecosystem is going to flesh out here?
One thing that it needs is people developing. The tools are not very eloquent, and our team are kind of specialists at it, and we've been focused on building those more eloquent UIs, more eloquent tools, and making those available through Otto. And we will be releasing, like 2 layers of that. One is the kind of core tools, like your console and your governance stuff, where you can really delve deep in the tech side of things. But then you're also non-developer stuff and non-blockchain tech stuff, where it's on the page in front of you, so you can actually have those powerful UIs that do things that you understand what they do and you have control over what they do, but you don't have to delve deep into the technology and understand a contract that you're calling, because you can see it written on your screen of what you're calling and what you're doing.
Now, how big is the Otto team itself?
Not super big. We're a little team. We have CTO Felix, who's been with us since 2017, I believe. He's exceptionally talented and knows the tech really well. He's part of our core team and has been for a long time. We have a team under him of developers. We have some very, very smart and experienced guys, like Leo, who's super good with maths and super good with code, um, you know, interactions and creating mechanics in code. So we have a team of developers and contract developers and stuff like that working in the background of that. We also have, because we're part of the Futureverse team, so the core Futureverse team. So we have the core Futureverse team working with us, and we have a front end developer, Mandy, who's extremely good at just connecting those sort of more technical back ends into a simplified front end, and she's been with us since 2018. We have, yeah, those are sort of the key personalities, but it's a small team, and we don't need a super big team, I guess. Right now, we have we work really closely with. Oh, so we have Matt, who's now our community manager. You may remember him from Adam Car Club, but Matt is actually an amazing community manager and really understands the crypto and crypto sort of community really well. And I think we've started seeing some really big improvements since he started. We lost Jafar a few months ago. He went to a promotion into a new job. So we had been waiting for the opportunity to hire the right person in that role. We have Saber, who looks after our partnerships and manages our external communications and internal comms and content creation. We have an agency that we work with and have worked with for a long time to do our design work and our UX UI. Yeah.
Sounds like an awesome crew. No, that's cool to hear about, because
Yeah,
I only know you from the team.
It's a light crew. We're not super big. We're not a huge organization, but we're part of a big organization, and we're kind of extremely specialized in exactly what we are doing. So we've got full capabilities to do the really important stuff, and then enough peripheral things, people that are skilled and talented to support us in the other stuff that needs to be done.
So how does it correlate to Futureverse? Because I know you brought that up earlier, and that's honestly how I found out about it in the first place. But what's kind of the relationship between you, Futureverse, and or the Root Network?
So I've been with Futureverse since the beginning. And the Root network is a substrate-based chain built based on the plug toolkit as well. So we are one team, but just growing from different seeds, I guess. And from an organizational perspective, we're one organization.
Okay.
We're the key developer. And when you think of things, it's not in the blockchain world. When you're actually building blockchains, a blockchain is not a company. So the Root network is not a company. Futureverse is the main developer on the Root network, but there will be numerous other developers on the Root network. The same for Otto Blockchain. We may be the main developer of Otto Blockchain. We may be the developer of the Otto Blockchain account, but we won't be the only developer on the chain itself.
The other question that I have here before I want to kind of just pick your brain about blockchain and crypto, NFTs, all that in general, is when you're thinking of the perfect Otto blockchain participant, how would you describe it? Is it something that's just, a general Web3 user? Is it somebody that's into decentralized finance? Is it somebody that's, wanting to be super safe while diving into the blockchain space? Like, what would be your key target individual?
I would say that our key target individual from a person perspective is so like from a yeah, I'm trying not to use a industry term, but from a retail perspective, would be someone who is has some digital assets, is interested in how things are developing and how new technology is being used, and is curious to learn. That's our ideal person at the moment. We we haven't launched, DeFi protocols that are making that you can invest large amounts of money in and become, a investor and earn a great, return or anything like that. None of that's proven yet, but we have launched a really cool chain with a novel consensus process that is worth learning about if you're interested. And if you have a few digital assets, coming in, learning first, meeting the community, and then starting to try things out. Because, there is there's an advantage to being early to these things, but there's not, there's no advantage to us or to the rest of the community for um, people to over invest, over commit before they understand what they're doing, because you learn first. So that's, curious early adopters who are in the Web3 space are really people that we would love to become part of our community, because I think that those are the people that are going to help us grow and help the community grow.
So you've been in crypto for a while, and I love talking to people that have had the experience. Because for myself, it's only been just a couple of years, and not to even that great of an extent. I've kind of focused on like specific areas, but can you give us just some knowledge in general? Like, let's say that there's somebody tuning in right now that's, 1 or 2 years in the blockchain space, maybe bought some NFTs, crypto in general, kind of, dealing with the market swings, uncertainty with regulation. You're somebody that's been building in this space, and I think a lot of things don't necessarily affect you. I think obviously there's things you have to look at, but as a participant, as a builder, can you just share some knowledge that you've learned over your years in the space?
One of the things that I've learned in the space is that when we talk about trustless, we what we mean is that you can see what's written in the code before you interact with it. So one of the things that I'm a real big, you know, advisor for and really care about is the idea that code is written in a way that you understand what the functions are when you call them, and how they work. A little bit of learning from reading contracts is a really great way to get there. But I know that a lot of, for example, Hacken or other auditing firms are writing out really good audit reports now, and that is one thing that if a project, say you're on Etherscan, looking at the contract address for a um, contract that you want to interact with, and it has a hack and sticker on it or something, click that hack and sticker and read the report, because it starts to break down what the functions are and how they work, and whether they've used best practice and stuff like that. And that's sort of one of the things that I learned early on, because there was a lot. We used to call it smart contract risk. So smart contract risk is that they got the math slightly wrong, and as slightly wrong gets worse and worse and worse as scale increases, you end up locked out of your money, and that's a terrible situation, and it happened a lot early on in Ethereum development. Um, we we learned very quickly to understand what the current best practice was and how it should be applied, and what safe math was. Because if you did something based on timing, but a blockchain doesn't have timing, it has a block speed. you know so if you can estimate timing based on block speed, but block speed's not consistent. So over time your math got out further and further before safe math was was created, for example. Yeah. Um, so yeah, that's one of the things that the journey has taught me, and one of the things that I've seen in some really very cool blockchains like Ada has worked really hard to make contracts understandable and to reduce smart contract risk. One of the other things that I've learned in the blockchain space, after a lot of good practice was out there, after we've mapped out, features, functions, calls, limitations, things like that, um, a lot of people took code and published it themselves, but added malicious pieces too. Now, that became a bigger risk in the last 3 years than smart contract risk. So, one of the things that I've learned in the space, and I love investing in little things, or I love buying into a project just to see how it goes and or see how it works and stuff like that. But in doing that, I've bought into a lot of projects that actually were designed to take your money and give you nothing in return. And I've done that a lot. But I've had to learn from those things of sit, wait, work it out. And, you know, we don't know the angles that these malicious actors are coming from. So avoiding those things and seeing the signs of it, seeing the signs of something that's not built well or not considered properly, that hasn't taken time to be developed, is suddenly an emergency or an urgent thing. So learning how to protect yourself from the tricks and the ways that those malicious actors try to take your funds has also been something that I think has plagued the development of the blockchain in general. Hopefully, Otto solves for that because of the requirements before you can actually publish a contract on the Otto blockchain. But we are seeing a lot of other ways that those are being solved for in the industry as well, which is heartening.
Is there anything that you'd kind of like to say about what's coming up for Otto? Any things that people need to know about? Obviously, we have the fair auction going on, so now would also be a great time for you just to kind of give a quick little TLDR of what people need to know about it.
There's 6 days left. I would say if you want to participate and don't have an Otto account, try and do that as soon as you can. Get your Otto account set up and get involved in the Discord. Go through the learning, find out how to get a few, not a lot, go gently, a few plug tokens, bring them on the chain, and participate, because it's a cool mechanic that is going to lead into people being introduced to the way that the DEX works. So the next feature, like the next UI features of the DEX, will be rolled out very soon, and you will receive from the redemption, so the plug redemption program at the moment, you'll receive the experience of what it would be like to invest in an offer that's brought to you by someone who's gone through the voting process and offering a contract or a security or a service on the Otto blockchain. So you have that experience of what it's like to invest as a VC. If you go through the process, you'll also be able to, you'll get in return for that some Kata V tokens, which you can learn how to trade on the DEX with, and you can trade that in exchange for any of the other tokens that are available on the exchange in the DEX, and add liquidity and become a liquidity provider if you choose to. But or more importantly, redeem those Kata V tokens for Kata tokens and start staking and become one of the early sort of decentralizing forces of the chain itself.
Amazing. Well, Jeff, I want to thank you for coming on today, and hopefully we'll talk again sometime soon. I'm very, very excited for everything that Otto has cooking right now.
Very excited, and yeah, I can't wait to see how this grows and evolves. And we already have an amazing community, and things are going exceptionally well. So I have, I feel like all the time and effort that we're putting into this is really going to pay off in the long run.